Hey y'all, my name is Jasmine Jones and I am a licensed clinical social worker and you are now watching Black Girl, a Therapist in the Wild, and this is a little show I like to call Therapist Sips and Reviews. And today we are doing a 90s throwback and we are reviewing New Jack City, a 1991 classic, and we are sipping on orange juice and absinthe. Yes, squad. How y'all doing? So I literally haven't seen this movie since like the 90s. I just remember it was a gangster movie. I didn't know what it was about, except for it being gangster movie with Wesley Snipes when he was young and looking fine. And he's not ugly now. He's just old. I don't like old niggas. So, there you go. So, I watched this movie. And I was just like, oh, this is like a commentary on crack in the the black neighborhoods and how it infiltrated the black neighborhoods and how we need to work together to uninfiltrate it, when in reality it was the CIA and the white people that put the crack in the neighborhoods, and this white reporter wrote a book about it, and also they made a movie in 2014 about how the white people put crack in. No, let me pull it up so I can be right. So the movie is called Kill the Messenger. That's about the white reporter that discovered that in the 90s, that the CIA was working with the Nicaraguan government to supply crack to the black neighborhoods so they can provide weapons to the Nicaraguan army, and then, so that they can like low-key run the government under the guise of the rebels. And so, white people made us crack addicts. But it's a good movie. I liked it. Like I said, it felt campy. At first I was like, is this being campy? Like, what's all these bright colors and like the office that Nino's in looks like some 1990s Batman office. I was like, this was a camp. But then they kept showing him watching what's that movie? Oh Lord. And watch this over and over again just to get this. What is that movie? Scarface. They got him watching Scarface over and over again, and I was like, oh, maybe this was like they're trying to like show glamour but make it black, so like black royalty type shit, like they were doing in Scarface, where it was all elegante and crystal chandeliers and gaudy random shit everywhere and stuff. But they just said, let's do that but make it black. And so I'm just like, but I feel like that's camp too, like but whatever. So anyways, the movie is basically about Wesley Snipes, Nino Brown. He plays this character called Nino Brown, and he is a drug dealer. And first, he's just a stick-up boy. Like, he's just out here just sticking up people and robbing niggas and selling drugs here and there. But then his brother finds out about crack from the Latinos. And so they start selling crack in the neighborhood. And you can see the deconstruction of everything. Like, they like take over a whole apartment building, and the apartment building goes from like regular folks living life, bright colors, flowers everywhere, to everybody is crack addicts and they look like zombies, and it's and it's like a fortress. You can't even barely get up in there because They done blocked off the doors. They got a computer room, and they got a crack delivery system. This is why it's camp. Like, I just feel like that shit wasn't actually happening like that. But, whatever, girl. And you can see the deconstruction of how everything went from great to like horrible in a matter of months of these people being fed crack. And it was just a representation of how like all the neighborhoods and apartment buildings and projects probably were before crack, and I'm just like, this is fucking horrible that these white people did this to us, because no, this is a repetitive thing, and people don't notice that when manipulative people act, they just keep doing the same shit over and over again. So let me school you a little bit. Let me educate you a little bit. Some of y'all probably knew some of this shit, but anyways, we are only as strong as our weakest people. How'd they get the Africans over here? They found the weak tribe leaders that wanted gold and all that shit, and they talked them into selling their people to, the white folks. Of course, they lied and bullshitted and said it was like their type of slavery, which was more so indentured servitude. You work for a few years and then they can come back home, they can leave, and the weak-minded folks fell for it and sold their people off and shit like that, or their prisoners or whatever to these white people, and then now we're doing it again in the hood. We find the weakest minded of us that just want money and see stars in their eyes when they see money. And they offer them this drug that'll make a bitch just keep coming back to suck your dick just to get some and give you money for it, as much money as possible. And, they latched onto it. Fuck the people, fuck everybody else. We're gonna make some money. But the thing is, you still ended up dead, honey, because you can't thrive that way. You're not gonna thrive off of destroying your own people. It's not gonna happen. And that's why a good portion of Africa was colonized at some point. Because you cannot thrive by listening and accepting the gifts of manipulative trash people. And so we are only as strong as our weakest links. And so basically these white people have just been doing this shit over and over again, finding the weakest links among us and promising gold and riches and tempting them like the devil would, And, these folks accept it because they've never experienced anything. These people come from poverty. Nino came from poverty. He's never even realized, because this is in the 90s where we didn't have the internet, that, poverty means that you can get free scholarships in college and, they'll give you money because you're poor and shit. And you could get a degree and become whatever you wanted to be if you wanted to. But no one's telling these black people this in the hood. No one's letting these black people know the opportunities that they can have because of affirmative action and, just their intellectualness that they already have, because you got to be a smart motherfucker to build a business like Nino did. He just wasn't he wasn't emotionally smart. Mm-hmm. Nino is a narcissist, and narcissists only care about being on top and being rich and powerful. And so he gets bigger and badder and bigger and badder, and then he starts cutting off the people that he was working with, the mafia, and, working with the Latin folks. And it's just like, you over here thinking that you so big and bad and all this other stuff that is blinding you to the fact that you're making enemies. Like he keeps saying throughout the whole movie, everything is mine. I own the world. Everything is mine. I'm just like, no, honey, these other things and people in the world, they have feelings and emotions, and they're not objects for you to own. So eventually somebody's going to get you because you're not paying attention to the fact that these people are individuals with their own thoughts and feelings, and they don't like the shit that you're doing. And so eventually you're going to fall. That's why I always say, you always wonder, why don't bad people fall and crumble? Why don't they have a bad life? They will eventually, because you can't keep building bodies up behind you, because eventually you're just building the army that's going to come after you once you put that wrong body on top of that mountain that's tired of dealing with this shit. And then once that person is tired of dealing with this shit and starts to come after you in whatever way, the rest of the bodies that you piled up are going to follow that person, because they're going to feel brave because that person has showed them what it looks like to be brave. And that's why you don't create enemies, or you try your best not to, on purpose anyway. Some people are just going to be haters just because they don't like your confidence and they feel like they can't be confident, and so they want to hate you. Oh, I can't be confident like that bitch, so fuck her. She's bougie and da-da. But you can't help that. That's just some shit you just got to look out for and not let them people close to you. But you can help not treating people like shit. You can help that, and so he's out here creating his empire, making enemies. And then on the other side, we got Ice-T in one of his many auditions for SVU, because now that I think back to it, he played a lot of cops and army people, and I think he was in The Predator too, maybe, I don't know. And he was a kangaroo on Tank Girl, but I love Tank Girl. That's a cult classic, so you don't say shit to me. She was fucking them kangaroos too. I think she had an orgy with them. Shut up. Oh God, should I do Tank Girl? Cause like there's a black character in it. Like he's not the lead, but like he's black. Like he's mixed or Creole or something. I don't fucking know. In one of his many auditions for SVU, we see Ice-T as a police officer that comes from the hood. And we start the movie off with him, trying to finagle with Chris Rock, who is trying to sell him some kind of drugs. I don't know if this was before or after. I think it was before the crack got him. And, he chased these niggas is athletic too. He was chasing that man up and down stairs and I just realized that black people in the hood are fucking leets. And black people in general are athletes, cause nigga was chasing him up and down them stairs. Chris Rock was on a bike going up, and of course theirs were probably stunt doubles. They got a BMX biker stunt double and a parkour stunt. And they said, "Get up on them stairs, bitch." He's just chasing them up and down the stairs and doing all this random shit and trying to catch him. And then I think Chris Rock gets away or some shit. And then later on, like a few years later, while they're scoping out Nino and his crew, giving out free turkeys and shit to the people in the community. And I realized what they were illustrating with that is how these niggas will come into the neighborhood, do nice things like give food for the holiday or give you some little change here and there to the kids and shit like that, just to make people feel like endeared to them. And just be having the neighborhood just being destroyed around them. They're not actively doing anything to like rebuild the buildings in the neighborhood, change the infrastructure of the neighborhood, or, make the neighborhood better, because you just done turned everybody into crack addicts. So, and now nothing's getting taken care of. But here's a turkey for Thanksgiving. You got something to eat for a little bit. And I just am appalled at the audacity of it all. And it's like a bait and switch. Like I am good. I gave scooters to the little basketball team on the courts at the park and stuff when they won, and I paid for their uniforms, but they still had to go back home to a hovel. And poverty with rats and roaches everywhere, but you didn't pay to help their building get fixed. No, this nigga's up here talking about he's making $1 million a week, and you're not even trying to do anything with that money that involves like helping people, your people, or anything like on a grander scale. Because if you're making $1 million a week, that's $4 million a month. That's like however many 4 times 12 is. And it's like 24. Shut up, bitch. I'm not good at math. Leave me alone. Don't make me do this shit in my head and I'll come up and be like 100 million. And you're not doing nothing to actually help anybody. You just baiting and switching motherfuckers. And the neighborhood knows it, but the neighborhood's scared of this nigga, so they're not gonna say shit to his face. So Ice-T is scoping out the situation with the, turkey giveaway, and he sees Chris Rock walking up, and he's a full crack addict, and, just sad. And then we get this fucking random no, because it just happened randomly, and you just like there was no like I just feel like Ice-T didn't act this character good enough, because it wasn't believable that you cared that much about this nigga. It was just a lot of putting his hand on his shoulder as he walked him through the montage of him going to rehab. That's like I was just like, he had this nigga up in his house. And all this other shit, doing like calisthenics and running. And I was just like, I just don't, there's no chemistry here. Like, what is this supposed to? And I guess it happened over a span of a few months. And I was like, okay, I mean, you are supposed to care about the people and help the people. And you did shoot him in his Achilles heel, which I don't even know how he's walking on that. I mean, I guess he went to the hospital or whatever. But like, I just felt like there was no real connection between the two of them. And I just was like, why is he helping this? And then to top it off, Chris Rock asks, his name is Pookie in the movie. Pookie asks to be an informant after the fact, that after he heals from his addiction, which is not a real, like, you are always an addict. It's an urge inside of your body now, and sobriety just looks like you handling and managing the urge like you would brush your teeth every day, or like you would take a bath every day. That you're just you're maintaining that urge all the time until it just becomes a knee-jerk reaction to maintenance it instead of like fall into it and shit. So why are you sending him around a bunch of crack after his first stint out of rehab? Why did you think that was gonna, you could have picked anybody else to go up in there and, scope things out and film stuff with it. But you put the recently sober nigga in this situation and was up there like caping for the nigga. Like, no, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. That's how I knew that nigga didn't care about him like that. No, he's not. What are you talking about? And this nigga was like struggling every day, but he was like young and shit. So like, young people, they're just like all vibrant and hopeful, even though like all the evidence is saying that you cannot do this, honey. It's not for you, not right now. And so we got Chris Rock up in the crack house, in the crack room, sorting the crack. I'm sorry, I don't know why the word crack is funny to me. It was just crackalicious, crackadocious, crack-a-lacking, bitch. I just had to get it out of my system. Leave me the fuck alone. And, I'm just looking at him like, when is he gonna crack? Because what? No, because he's recently out of rehab. This is like a few months after like the calisthenics with Ice-T and the rehabilitation with the people telling their stories. I feel like this is like a like Dare movie too. Like, like in the 90s we had this like I forgot what Dare stands for, but they were against drugs or some shit. And they would come to school and do these fucking presentations about don't do drugs and whatever. It was corny and shit that kids didn't really pay attention to. And I feel like this is like a PSA from Dare, but you're blaming it on like just black people. You're blaming it on like just black people alone. And I'll give it to him because this movie was made before that reporter came out with his book about how the CIA, like this was released a few years before, because that was like the mid 90s when he released that book, I believe. So, they may not have known about it, but also at the same time, these are rich people, and rich people be knowing more things about stuff than most people do. So I won't 100% that. Because does this speech at the end when he's in court, and he's just like, it's not just me, it's society and the system. And I'm just like, I mean, he's not lying though. Like, the CIA funneled crack into black neighborhoods because they were trying to fund a rebel war, so that that's another one. Like the United States government funding these fucking wars and shit in third world countries and stuff like that, so that they can be the silent government behind the government that they put in place. It's a bait and switch bullshit. Like, they just over here. So they find in the weakest links in these people of color communities and coming to them with all these promises. Like, you have the United States government backing. We'll give you guns. We'll help you do things. And then really all they want to do is make sure that the third world country stays a third world country and and the people in that country does not progress further. I mean, they killed Gaddafi for it. Gaddafi was trying to make a World Bank with gold standard for all of Africa. I'm sure he probably did some stuff that wasn't good either, but he was trying to make a World Bank Do you understand that the world banks are like in white people countries and white people control the standard of money? And this man was saying, fuck that. I want to put a world bank in Africa, in my country in Africa, so that Africa could have a world bank with a gold fucking standard, and they killed him for it. That's the white people trying to keep us back over and over by just the weakest link. Pick the weakest link out the community. We are only so I can't even blame Nino Brown. He was just one of the weakest links in our community that is easily swayed when the white man comes along with his gold and jewels and money and fake fucking promises and shit like that. And it was, and the thing is too, like, it wasn't Nino either. The white people came to the Latin folks first with it. You know what? I'm tired. So he wasn't wrong, and I'm not about to sit up here and be like, oh, like black people, we need to stop doing drugs. And no, black people, wake the fuck up and realize that white people are purposely poisoning us by targeting our weakest links. And the weakest links, back to slavery. They had our own people beating us and snitching on us in slavery and keeping an eye on us. They brainwashed the weakest links during slavery. Like, this stuff is not stopped. This is not stopped. It's just the same thing over and over again. I'm just wondering, when the fuck are people going to wake up? When are people going to wake up and realize that white people are out here purposely targeting the weakest minded folks in the people of color communities and swaying them over to their side so that they can come back around and turn against everybody else? When are we going to realize so that they can just keep their white palms clean while we are killing each other? Just like in the Jim Crow book. Jim Crow is not some shit that was just for slavery. Jim Crow has been something that white people have been doing since Rome took over Europe. Jim Crow is something that white people did to kill off their native Europeans, the Celts and the Romanis and shit like that. Jim Crow is what they used in the Crusades to make the Muslim people look like the monsters, when in reality you just wanted to take over their fucking countries and shit and their resources and shit like that. Jim Crow is what they use to colonize the fucking world. They just wrote it in a book and gave it a name. But it's been the playbook since whiteness has whited, and I am just confused as to why no one is seeing this. And so anyways, we in the movie and we get through the montage and he's in the crack house and he's doing this thing, infiltrating shit. And of course he falls through. He can't keep that shit up. And he does some crack. And then he goes to work on crack. And then he starts doing calisthenics and aerobics and acting hyperactive and shit. Of course they knew he was high. And yeah, Ice-T sitting there watching the camera talking about, everybody else in the room talking about, oh no, something's wrong with your boy. And Ice-T's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. What's wrong with you, honey? Did you just not want to admit that you wanted to use this nigga from jump? Did you not want to admit that? Did you not want to admit that you didn't really like this nigga like that and you just wanted to use him from jump and you got him healthy just so that he could and you set him up basically just so that he could be the one to ask to infiltrate shit, when in reality you wanted him to do that anyways, and you just trying to sit up here and play face and act like, no nigga, fuck this motherfucker, because he did all these movies where he was the black power nigga in all these fucking movies in the early 90s just to go off and marry that white bitch. And that's something else. Oh, he was, and it was just like wearing these dreads and shit, and wearing the kente cloth hat, and doing all that. Have Malcolm X in his house, and I'm just looking at this nigga like, that ain't who you. I mean, it's a character, but he had a few characters like that back in the 90s, and I just, Why are you purposely choosing to make your character like extra black power in the early 90s and shit? And then like, what happened, honey? What happened? I don't, it's none of my business. I hope they have a happy, loving marriage and life and beautiful, everything in the name of you. But anyways, so they catch this nigga and then they tie him to a chair and then they set the whole fucking building on fire. And you can just tell, you just don't care about people. Just not even our people, just people in general. They set that motherfucker aflame. And and then they run it out. And then Nino is all mad at G Money. I think they're related. Like, I Googled it. I think that's his actual brother. And now I'm wondering if the Dunham man is his brother and if Keisha was his sister. Cause like they kept saying family over and over again. But I thought it was like a gang thing. Like, you know how gang members be calling each other family and shit because that's the only people that gave you like emotional support, but also introduce you to violence and shit like that at the same time. So now you're like trauma bonded with these people. Shut up, bitch. And so anyways, like he's walking around the table and having his little speech moment and shut up before I turn your 5 cents into $5, bitch, or some shit like that and all this other stuff. And G Money been mad. He been mad at his brother for a minute. Cause he been mad at his brother cause he was fucking some stripper and the stripper is trying to climb the ladder, honey. That's her job. Like, the bitch been looking at Nino since you seen her at the club. Like, since y'all was at the club. Like, you don't have enough obviously you don't have enough self-esteem to just let this bitch go. Because she's trying to climb the ladder. You were the door in, honey. It's like when you in Hollywood and you groupie and basically you date like a PA, a production assistant, just to get on the set and actually meet the real people. I would never do that because I just realized I do not interact with people based off of needing something from them because my nervous system is so used to me doing shit for myself that I don't even think of that this person could do anything for me. I don't think to ask this person for anything. I'm just having a conversation. And if they offer me shit, I mean, I might take it. What's the catch? What exactly, like, if I take this offering, like, am I gonna be some weird ass Hollywood sacrifice or some shit? Like, let me know ahead of time so I can make a full decision on what the fuck I'm gonna be involved with, because you offering to fund such and such and, things like that out of the clear blue sky, and all we did was have a conversation about aliens or some shit like that, and I don't know. I have to see. So, that's what she was trying to do. She was trying to be like he was the PA and she was using him to get in the door because that's what she does. Like, that's, you should have caught on, like, but you didn't. And so that's your fault. Like, she made it very obvious that she wasn't interested in you beyond getting in the door, honey. And so, for me personally, I couldn't be a part of that life. I don't like violence. I don't like danger. I don't like getting shot at. I don't want to die. I will snitch because I am not going to jail. I have a skincare routine. I have a vitamin taking routine, and if I am not able to do my skincare thoroughly and properly every day, twice a day, and I'm not able to take my vitamins and my health smoothie twice every day, twice a day, and then like my skin's gonna get textured in prison. And I might get rashy because they don't have the body wash that I use to keep my body skin exfoliated nice. And you can't use the African bathing cloth in there. You got to use whatever the fuck they give you. And then motherfuckers like sexually assault you. And I don't want to be touched on by some bitch because she's sad and lonely or whatever the fuck. And like, I'm not going to jail. Like, after that show Jailbirds and that bitch was talking to the toilet to some nigga upstairs because she was just that lonely. And then she was sitting there in the interview talking about how, I got some acne from the toilet water air. Just casually said it. Just casually. Just like it was no big fucking deal. But that's okay. At least I get to talk to my boo. And I'm just like, are you fucking... You mean that... That acne on your face has toilet germs.
reaction, honey. What are you talking about? That's not something to casually just be with but like that's how you are when you in prison and jail for so long. You just become complacent with all of the disgustings. And I'm not doing that in the name of Jesus. I will tell on you. I'm gonna tell on your mama. I'm gonna tell on your brother. I'm gonna tell on your boys. Don't bring that shit around me. I don't care, because I'm not a ride or die bitch, because you didn't ride or die for me by not doing criminal shit that would like not get us in jail or in trouble or some shit. So since you didn't ride or die for me by not doing criminal shit, I'm not riding dying for you, nigga. What are you talking about? It's a balance. It's an equal balance. And you tipped the motherfucking scales when you said I'm going to put my relationship and my family in danger to do this criminal shit. And they're going to ride for me doing this fuck you, bitch. You can go to jail alone, honey. You can be in that bitch by your motherfucking self, because you got me fucked up. So no, like I couldn't be like her. She's living a different life than I would choose to live. But that's the life she chooses to live. That's the greatness. That's all the greatness that she sees around her. So she's going to go to the greatest thing that she can see in her neighborhood to be at the highest level that she feels that she can get in her neighborhood. And it is what it is. Mm-hmm. So he been mad about that this nigga fucked his bitch for a minute. Because they supposed to be brothers and shit. You know, like, why? Because he's a narcissist, honey. He don't care about nobody but his motherfucking self. But they didn't know, like, narcissism and shit like that. They didn't have, like, computers and shit back then like that to be looking shit up on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and social media and YouTubes and shit. So, you know, you just sit up here wondering why your brother hates you. And and you don't know why. It's like, oh, shit, I'm sorry for you, honey. So this nigga goes, and Ice-T, like they end the case. Like Mario Van Peebles is like the head detective on the case, and they had to end the case because Ice-T wanted to sit up here and get this addict to go up in this house with all of his addiction stuff and not smoke crack. Like, okay. And then you got G Money over here, you know, he starts smoking crack because his brother's mean to him. He just starts smoking crack because his brother's mean to him, and he's sad, and it's so horrible. Like, I just felt bad for him. I was like, wow. But you betrayed this nigga and got everybody killed. So I couldn't feel too bad for him. I was just like, well, I mean, nigga, you need to control your emotions and shit, because you just betrayed everybody. You brought two niggas in that were ops, and like after the first op, I wouldn't have let him bring anybody. He would have been on a year's probation with me, because you're my family, like your blood still. So I'm not gonna like exit you out off top. This was like, maybe this was a mistake, but you're not bringing nobody else over here. I don't trust your decision making skills. You brought this nigga in that you knew had a drug problem because you thought he was sober, and he had a whole wire, and we had to burn down our shit. No, nigga, but no, he let him bring in Ice-T, and Ice-T is undercover. And Ice-T is like, no, fuck it. And he's working with the white dude that played on The Breakfast Club. I always like to, like, when in the 90s when he cut his hair short, I always like to call him what's his name that played Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.'s younger brother. No, because when he had the glasses on the whole movie, and he barely said anything, like a token white man should in a black movie. Just sit in the background, don't say nothing, occasional racist things, and then just silence for the rest of the movie. And that's how it should be. That's how Jacob should be on Abbott Elementary, just in the background and just not saying shit. Maybe some magical white people shit occasionally to give advice, but just the rest just don't say nothing. But anyways, we got Robert Downey Jr.'s younger brother here, and he's the other detective on the case, and he's over here like, you know, like telling Ice-T that, you know, I used to be a white and he said Poe, and I was just like, shut up. I used to be white trash, because Ice-T was sad that Pookie died, right? So Ice-T was just like, it's my fault, man. Yes, it is your fault. Nigga, there was so many red flags, and you still kept saying, oh, he's fine. Like, shut up, bitch. You
purposely put this child in danger, knowing that he had a disability and shit, and you didn't give a shit, nigga. Like, you thought that disability was just gone because he seemed clean and shit. Girl, shut up. And so, like, and then this white dude gonna be like, no, it's my fault. And I really thought he was gonna say something like it was his fault, but he was like, no, it's my fault. I grew up as poor white trash, and I used to do crack, and it's not a black or a white thing. It's a death thing or some stupid shit he said. And I was like, no, honey, it is a white thing. They put this in our neighborhoods on purpose. They've been sabotaging our people and other people of color on purpose by purposely picking the weakest link out of all of us. You know, and weak link doesn't mean that you don't have power. Weak link means you don't have any emotional intelligence enough to be like, oh, this makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm going to listen to that feeling inside of me instead of like going with this because it feels uncomfortable and it makes me feel like I'm betraying my people. No, instead you just see the money. They see the money. That's why they're the weakest link. And that's why emotions are important, because emotions give you discernment, because something that makes you feel uncomfortable, your discernment's then going to kick in and you're not going to want to do it because it makes you feel uncomfortable. So you need your emotions. And so anyways, like, they decide to go off kilter and try to catch this nigga by themselves. And they basically like act like they're drug dealers. I guess the people in the neighborhood still don't know that Ice-T is a cop. I don't know. And then they hook up with G Money, and G Money over here, he's an addict now, so he's not thinking clearly. So he tells G Money that he can make him the new Nino Brown, and we just need to get rid of Nino and da da da. So he hooks up with the mobsters, and the mobsters go get G Money for him, and he's telling them all this shit. And of course, G Money's weak-minded himself, weaker-minded than Nino, anyways. And he's like, oh yeah, I want to be the new Nino, blah, blah, blah. So he like brings this nigga in, and I'm just like looking at Nino like, yeah, you had him pat this nigga down, but you really trusting him? Like, you really, after the last debacle and you lost the first place? Like, I mean, if we're gonna criminal, do it smartly. Like, you only got one time with me. Mm-hmm. You got one time, and it depends on what you do on that one time. You know, like, if I was in that position, I would have been like, no, he needs to go. No, I don't trust anybody you bring around me right now. He needs to go. Get his ass away from me. And he would have been away. He would not have been in my inner circle. This nigga Nino brought this motherfucker in because, you know, this nigga was kissing up to him and shit. And then come to find out, Nino is the one that killed Ice-T's mom and shit. Because it was like a gang initiation or some shit, and they said that he had to kill some random person on the street. And I'm just like, why are we making the kids join gangs and then they have to be hurt or kill somebody in order to join the gangs? And like, how is that? See, I'm telling you, they making these people trauma bond with each other. That's the manipulation. That's the you know, brainwashing. If we fight together, then we're family or some stupid shit. And So anyways, Ice-T is finding all this shit out, but he's still pretending to da-da-da. And then like Robert Downey Jr.'s younger brother is like sneaking into Nino's house while Nino's at a wedding for the preacher and the wife, the preacher's daughter, that he like funds their church to. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on there. They didn't really explain that. And there's this old man that is just upset that these gang members took up. And I was with him because he came to the police station and he was like, how you police is gonna let these people come up in our apartments and take everything over and blah 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 blah. And I was like, you didn't have to do a whole investigation. That's breaking and entering, bitch. Like, but then it's like, I had to step back and think about it and be like, the people that live there would have to say that their apartments have been broken into. Would they have said it? See how you have to have all this evidence and shit? You can't just kill niggas because you know they already doing some fuck shit, and you can't just take them to jail because you know they already doing some fuck shit. Because if you give these police officers leeway to just take people to jail like that when they know they're doing fuck shit, they're not gonna do it just for the criminals. They're gonna do it for every single person they see on the street that they don't fucking like.
And that's why it's kind of like I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. I don't know. Like the legal situations that we already have aren't great, but some of that shit keeps us from just being randomly arrested out the clear blue sky as often as we were being randomly arrested when the police were clearly the KKK back in like the early 1900s and late 1800s and shit. So, I don't know. But but I was with them. Like, you let these people just walk up in there, but the people got to tell. The people got to call the police to come and say somebody broke into their house. The people got to, like, actively want these people out. And the old man came to the police station and was telling folks, I don't know why they didn't go. That was enough. That should have been enough. Like, But then, like, I don't know. There's no but. I don't know why they didn't go. Maybe it would have been hard to prove. Maybe they would have only arrested because they were trying to get the head. That's what it was. They're trying to get the head boss to cut the head off the snake. You go to that man's apartment. He says these people broke in. They can arrest a couple people that he points out, but they ain't got proof that everybody else did anything. And they ain't got proof that Nino did anything. And no one else is saying anything. So you're going to have to leave that man there after you arrested them two people. They ain't going to be in jail for that long. And that man's going to be there after they arrested them two people with the rest of the motherfuckers that's in there. And that man's going to die. So, because he told the police. So, it's a rock and hard place that we put ourselves in because these white people. But anyways. We had this wedding, right? I guess they're trying to Godfather it at this point. They're trying to do the Scarface and the Godfather and all this other shit. And I'm just like, okay, bitch, whatever. No, because niggas love that shit. And I'm just like, you got this message at the end about don't do drugs and our neighborhoods and blah, blah, blah. But then you got this whole movie glorifying that shit. Like, he lives in a nice ass, like, Batman at 90s Batman-esque apartment and shit. Like, he's fucking bitches. He's in pools on floaties and shit with bitches and shit. Like, if I was somebody that was trying to do some shit like that, I would just be watching it for what not to do so I won't get caught. Like, okay, so he was like, just like in a movie when somebody said something about him watching Scarface and then was like, well, just don't get caught like Scarface. It's like, basically that's why people are watching this. If they trying to do shit like that, they be like, oh, okay, so this is what I gotta do and this is what I gotta do to make sure I don't don't invite random niggas into the spot and shit. Like, keep the circle close and shit and da 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 da. Like, But anyway, so they're at this wedding, right? And the mobsters are mad. They're like, oh, they broke their partnership with us and fuck Nino and blah, blah, blah. So basically, like, they put a hit on them. This nigga Nino gonna use this little baby. I'm glad they didn't show the little baby getting shot up. He gonna use this little baby as a fucking shield, and I'm just like, nigga. You are broken. There's something that's broken in there that's not ever going to be fixed. Who picks up a baby and then uses the baby as a shield against bullets? And then if you say some shit to him like narcissists do, well, she didn't die, so okay, nigga, whatever. Anyway, they shoot up the shit, and then like he gets away. Of course, he never gets shot. And then Robert Downey Jr.'s younger brother gets the financial files out of the safe that was in his home, his Batman-esque 90s Batman-esque apartment. And then he takes it to the DA, and the DA is just like, oh no, this isn't gonna work for us. We need like video of him buying drugs. So like Ice-T goes and tries to do a hookup where he buys drugs. But so this whole movie, like, Brown was with this light-skinned bitch, right? But then narcissist, he gets rich and whatever and doesn't give a fuck about her anymore, and she can't have kids, and he's just making fun of her and all this shit. But before all that happens, she gonna bring her fucking cousin on that works at the bank to help him with his finances and shit. I'm just like,
Girl, why are you involved in it? But she comes from like nice family, like suburban life or whatever the fuck. I mean, not so nice. Her mom's a klepto or some shit. And like she don't know that this is some bullshit, and like she shouldn't be involved in it because she didn't grow up in the hood. So when as he becomes richer, he becomes more of an asshole. But I truly believe he was an asshole before. She just was like grinning and bearing it because she thought he was cute, and he was like young Wesley Snipes. A lot of these niggas in here was gorgeous except for a few, but young Wesley Snipes, the eyes and the lips and the skin and the swagger and the voice and the aggressiveness, and it was nice. But anyways, so like throughout the whole movie he's treating her like shit, right? And so like what was I saying? Like they were at the church, it got shot up, and she's mad, and she brings her cousin on like in the beginning of the movie, right? So she's mad at him, and she's like, oh, you just kill everybody and blah, 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 and you just murder people and blah, blah, blah. And then he was like, well, cancel this bitch. And I was just like, is that what they got canceled from? Let me know. Is that what they got canceled from? And so he kicks her the fuck out. But then later on, like, she testifies against him and stuff. And like, so Ice-T is in a thing selling the drugs to him, right? And then her cousin, that's what it was. Her cousin recognizes him as a cop at the because in the beginning he was just like, I know him from somewhere. I just can't put my finger on it. He was there back a few years before when Ice-T arrested Chris Rock for selling dope, right? Or buying dope, whatever the fuck he was doing. And he saw that nigga arrest him. He knew he was a cop. And so he finally clicks in. And before they could make the sale and the switch off, this nigga gonna go, I knew that nigga. He's 5'0". And I was just like, okay. And so they had this shootout and and then, Robert Downey Jr.'s younger brother like saves his life, and he saved Robert Downey Jr. younger brother's life. And he's probably older than Robert Downey Jr. Let me shut up. Whatever though, they look alike when he has glasses on. He has his hair cut short. I don't care. I always thought that all through the 90s. I forgot at some point. After he cut his hair, I forgot that he was even on Breakfast Club. And every time I saw him in a movie, I would just be like, "Look, it's Robert Downey Jr.'s younger brother." Shut up. And so anyways, like they get up out of there, and of course Nino escapes with his brother G Money, and they on the roof, right? And Nino, cause Ice-T I knew I was gonna do it at least once. Ice-T was like, had told him earlier on while he was in the pool with the bitches that G Money had tried to make a deal with him on the sly and shit. And so like Nino confronts him on the roof. Did you try to make a deal with Ice-T? And he was like, yeah, cause you took my bitch. And he was like, oh, this over a bitch. And then he was like, no, it's not just about that. It's not that. You made me look like a bitch, and you made me look weak in front of them niggas, and we started this, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was just like, well, I mean, if you had a little bit more bass in your voice and you like stood up for yourself a little bit more, honey, but you was already beaten down and mentally and verbally and emotionally abused by this nigga, so it's probably not something that was ever going to happen until you went to therapy. So it is what it is. And then they did this little, am I my brother's keeper? And he was like, yes, I am. And shoots his brother in the forehead. So I guess all his family's dead. And he goes into hiding. And my thing is like, look here. The banker even said that he went from $800 a week to $8,000 a week working for Nino. Nino talking about he making millions a week. Why are you hiding out in the top of an apartment building in the hood? I'm curious, because you could have went to another country like the white people do, but he don't know the white people resources. That's the problem. Like, he don't know that he could like probably have put some of that, wired some of that money to a bank account overseas and done all this other shit and just went to another country and never came back. Like, he doesn't know peace. And when you don't know peace, you always running. And so he couldn't allow himself to not be in the area where like he didn't have peace. Like, he didn't know peace. And so why go somewhere where you could actually find peace? Why do that? I was just looking at this shit like, give me $8,000. You can put some of that shit in Bitcoin. You can flip some of that shit in the stock market. You can do some shit with it to see if you can grow it and then stop selling drugs. Like, at some point, you make enough money where you could just stop selling drugs, but we're greedy. We're greedy, and this is quick money, and so we just keep doing it. And I just feel like at some point, you could just, like, you don't need to keep buying random shit. You could just chill and relax. You got money. Like, you just chill. Like, he never realized he could just chill after getting like a couple million, and just like a couple million would have went a long way back in the 80s and 90s and stuff. So further than it goes today anyways. So I was just confused by that, because give me a couple million and that's all I need. Like, I don't need nothing else. Like, I'm about to go and live on an island somewhere and chill for the rest of my fucking life and flip that money until it makes enough money for the future generations, and that's it. Like, I don't need much. I just need to be comfortable. And so like I always felt confused by that, but this nigga is up in the building hiding, and then here come Ice-T busting through the windows, and they fighting and all this other stuff, and the stripper bitch is in there, and she got to duck and dodge, and then finally they get his ass out on the street, and then here come the neighborhood like, fuck him, you kill him, and I'm just like, it's more y'all than him. It's more y'all than the niggas that he has shooting people. Y'all don't want to put yourself up as martyrs, because when you outnumber somebody, you have to realize that some people might have to be martyrs in the group in order to beat the person that is trying to kill everybody. But once you start fighting niggas, they gonna realize that you outnumber them, and then they're gonna get beat, like, cause you outnumber them. And so people need to realize that. I'm tired, like, having these white people come and pick the weakest link amongst us, and then letting them niggas like kill us all because they're op. And I'm tired. And so anyways, like, he's in court, he goes to court and he does this little speech about it's the system, and I was poor, and that, and they threatened my mom, and then he blames the banker dude, the girl's cousin, and so the banker dude's gonna go to jail, and he don't even get real jail time. Of course, he gets like a year basically, and in 12 months he was up for parole, and of course he's gonna do his bestest to get that fucking parole, so he didn't get jail time. But that's the system that white people created to make sure that they can keep flooding that shit into our neighborhood. So why send these people to jail? And the thing is, like, I feel like we don't need to be sending drug dealers to jail. We need to be sending these white people to jail for funneling the money through the drug dealers. But whatever, it's whatever. The drug dealers need rehabilitation and therapy and work on themselves, because those are poverty crimes. And when you rectify the poverty, you rectify the crimes. But whatever, it's none of my business. So anyways, he's walking down the stairs cheesing and smiling because he don't gotta go to jail for that long, or whatever the fuck. Here come that old man again. So the old man tried to shoot him one time while he was at the church, and like Ice-T got him up out of there and shit. So now the old man is back again with his old rickety gun, and he's like, hell has a message for you, or some shit, hell is waiting for you, and shoots this nigga right in the chest. And I noticed Mario Van Peebles was standing right behind this nigga and only grabbed him after he shot the gun. And I was just like, y'all let this nigga kill this man, because you seen him pull that shit out. I mean, it is what it is. Like, Nino did some horrible shit. He was a fucked up human being. Like, I don't even know if that nigga could have been fixed with therapy. Like, he was just a messed up person. Like, his life was horrible, and he was a horrible person, and he made other people's lives horrible. So, it is what it is. But the issue is that the shit doesn't stop, because the white folks still will pick someone new to be the drug lord, or just keep funneling shit, or just allow us to keep doing the shit to ourselves and not do anything about it. And so the moral of this story is to stop letting white people into our spaces so that they can pick the weakest link
amongst ourselves and turn us against each other. That's what I got out of this movie. I'm not blaming black people for shit. We didn't do nothing. We was living our lives, and you picked the weakest of us, the most toxic of us, to use against ourselves on purpose, and that's some bullshit. Fuck all of that. I don't have time for it. So, yeah, it was a good movie, and be on the lookout for nothing comes free in this world. And if some white people or some people come up to you with some shit saying that you gonna get this, that, and the other, it's probably gonna be some bullshit, because there's a catch. No one's giving you shit for free. So the catch may not necessarily affect you directly. It may affect the people that you are offering what they gave to you to people. And, it's just something to think about. White supremacy is insidious and evil, and it's been happening since the Romans tried to take over Europe. Like, this is a consistent, continuous cycle that needs to be broken, and nobody's doing anything to break it. So I'm going to call it out when I see it. And y'all need to watch that movie. What's it called? I'm gonna put a little picture up too. What's it called? Hold on a second. Kill the Messenger. And then he wrote a book the movie is based off the book he wrote called Dark Alliance, which it is. Like, they had an alliance with these rebels in Nicaragua just to funnel crack into our neighborhoods. We were the sacrifice so that they can run the shadow government in Nicaragua through these rebels. And I am exhausted. Found this proof, and it's like, everybody should be talking about it. Everybody should be on it. Everybody should be seeing and disgusted by the fact that these white people are so trashy and insidious, and don't see us as human beings and things. They see us as chattel still, and I am disgusted. And so I hope that y'all learned some shit today about why we don't trust white folks. Later days.